So I thought I'd do a quick video of my snare drum collection. Someone asked me last week how many snares do I have, and I couldn't actually remember, so I thought I'd take them all out and have a look. Having said that, I think I've missed one. I think one of them's still in storage, and I think that's a Premier 21, so I'm still one short as far as I remember. But anyway, I'll start up here with the oldest. This is the Premier, what's it called? Dominion Ace, there you go. From the 30s, ivory finish I believe it was called, this white paint job. And it should have two rods here which I have replacements for. And it actually has a snare on the top as well as a snare on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that with the video. There's a snare on the top and on the bottom there as well, as was common for drums back then, I guess. I'm trying to think of some of these model numbers actually, because I'm not great at remembering sort of, the old model numbers, because Premier usually just called them a number rather than a name, but I think this was the 2043, which is a birch piccolo. It's actually a 13-inch. God knows what this was called. I think it's aluminium. It was a special edition piccolo. You see the badge there. I believe it's an aluminium shell. I could be wrong. Answers on a postcard. Now this is a Carmine Appice signature snare. These are actually quite rare. I've only ever seen a couple of these for sale over the years. Parallel action snare strainer. It's essentially like a brass 2000. I think these only appeared for a limited time in the 1990-91 catalogue. And I don't think they made them for a long time, because I think shortly afterwards he changed company. And what we got here, this is an original Jester snare. This is actually off my 75th anniversary kit, matching kit, which comes with, I think it's 10, 12, 15 floor and a 20-inch bass drum, if I'm right. It has this lovely white marine wrap. But yeah, these were released in 1997 as a 75th anniversary kit. That's quite nice. This is a Royal Ace? I think it's a Royal Ace, yeah. Premier Royal Ace. This was actually my first Premier drum. I got it with my sort of 60s Premier kit. For a long time I thought this was a 2000, but it's not. It's a Royal Ace, I think. This model number, it's essentially like a brass Signia snare. I think they called it the 2025, maybe? Brass shell. Signia lugs, it's really nice. This is another, it's a very rare one actually. I don't think I've ever seen one of these for sale, apart from the one I bought, which is this one. And I think I had to buy it from a guy in France, but this is a symphonic double shell snare. I think it's from the 80s, I could be wrong. I'll try and do another video of this later, but basically it's got a smaller shell suspended inside this shell. It's got like a scaffolding framework, so it has two shells basically, hence why it's called the double shell. Premier Project 1 needs no introduction. It's got the big airport here. If you actually look on Google, you can see pictures of the shell without the skin on, and it's actually got I don't know what you call them, air chambers, which go through the shell, and the idea being it helps the air get out very quickly. I've actually played this and it is really loud. I think the idea behind it was meant to be a good studio snare, and this was for like the mic kind of thing. But yeah, it's a really great snare actually. It's really powerful. Underneath that, this is the Premier, what is it called, 2035, I think it's called. I got this when I bought my resonator, and it's the same finish as my resonator. It came with the kit, and that was I think it was a 12, 13, and then 14, 16 floors and 22-inch bass. And this came with the kit, and I think it was all in fantastic condition. I think it was only about 600 quid. I can't remember where I bought it. Yes, I do. It was Express Music. I think they're in Birmingham. And one night I was googling the Premier resonators, and this popped up, and I just bought it. And it's a 14 by 8 size. So it's really nice. Okay, let's go to the next one. Anyone who knows me knows in terms of Premier, well, I only have Premier now. I used to have other brands, but I sold them all. But in terms of Premier, my favourite series, if you like, is the Modern Classics. As you can see, there's 3 towers of Modern Classics versus 1 tower of every other model. So yeah, I love the Modern Classics, and it's kind of an ongoing, growing collection, and it's expanded by a few since the last time I took them out for a picture. But I'll go down each one for you. This is a 12 by 7 birch, I think it is. It's got the first generation badge on it, where you had the air hole at the front. And this used to belong to an artist. I've actually got the whole matching Premier Series kit, which is a Gen X, which has the same 2-tone wrap. For the life of me, I can't remember who the guy was, but I think he played with Busted. I think he's Australian. If that rings a bell with anyone. Going down, another former artist, Snare. This is a 12 by 5. This is actually from the last generation of Modern Classics. So it's got the Donette snare strainer, and it's a mahogany, very thin ply shell, and it was this sort of cool hardware and wrap combination with the black hardware. Going down, this is just a sort of standard steel shell Modern Classic. Beneath that is actually kind of, I don't know if you can see that, but it's got the 2000 parallel action snare strainer, and the super hoops. So this was the Modern Classic 2000. Originally in the catalogue, it came with just a standard finish shell. It was under, like, I think it was called a speciality drum, but this has got like a nickel, like a darker nickel. I don't know if you can see it on the recording. So I don't know if that was like a limited edition or something. Underneath that is a 13 by 5.5 inch, I think. Hammered brass, I think. Is it steel? I think it's brass. I think these the hand hammered ones are brass. So it's a 13 by 5, and that's it's a 14 by 6.5 or 7. I can't remember. And underneath that is a standard 14 by 7 brass. I don't know if you can see the shell very easily, but it might look like a wood on the video, but it's brass, trust me. Up here, it's a 10 by 5 inch birch shell, and it comes with a bracket. It's like a really cool side snare, if you like, or if you do, I suppose, sort of funk or R&B, you could use it as a main snare. You can crank it up really, really high. This is my main go-to snare that I use for most gigs. This is a 13 by 7 maple, Modern Classic. Just like this one, this has an upgraded trick strainer on it, and it's got the fish lock, lug locks even, tongue twister. Underneath that is a 14 by 5.5 inch Modern Classic. Again, this was from same shell as this one, I think. This is the last line, the last line of Modern Classics that were made, and it's got a very thin ply mahogany shell, and it's got this beautiful, I have no idea what they call it, but this really nice finish on the outside, and that came with the Donette strainers as well. This was a limited edition run, Union Jack, and that's just a 14 by 5.5 inch maple shell, 14 by 7 inch maple shell, and then 14 by 4.5 inch maple shell, and this one's got super hoops on it, and I think a Van Keef snare strainer, and Van Keef VK drums basically. Going onto this one, I'll go from the bottom upwards. These 3 snare drum. These 3 Premier Modern Classics, again, they've got the first generation badge on them. These were actually prototypes, which I bought off a guy who used to work for Premier. And when they were first coming out, I think around 2001, I think they were first released. Again, they had this badge. These were just some prototypes they were experimenting with in terms of, you know, wood type and finish. You got like a 2-tone one there, and I don't even know what wood they are, so don't ask me. But yeah, these are 3 prototypes. These are 2 limited edition runs. These were steam bent shells. One is 14 by 6.5 with distressed hardware. I don't know if you can see that well on the video. And then the other's 14 by 5.5 standard chrome hardware. Now let me get this right. I think one of them was maple and one of them was beech. Not birch, one of them was beech. And I can't remember which one was which in terms of the size, but yeah, they're actually really nice drums. I've used this one a few times with the blues band. It's really good tuning range actually. This is another former artist's snare drum. This one, he requested it with the older style snare throw off. I've forgotten the model number of that, but this is actually cherry wood. So it's really nice. It has the lug locks as well. Another tongue twister. And then finally we have the 2 Craviotto gold-plated Modern Classics. This one is a maple shell, and that was limited to 50, and this is a English walnut shell, and that was limited to 10 in the world when they were released. I can't remember when they were out. I think it was maybe 2005, maybe 2005, roughly 2004, maybe. Obviously Mr. Craviotto passed away not that long ago, so it's quite nice to have a couple of his shells, a couple of his drums rather. And you can see everything's gold plated, the badge, the lugs, the hoops, even the Nickelworks snare strainer. Again, I don't know if you can see that very well, but on both of them they're all gold plated. At the back as well, it's gold plated with the airport. And on this side as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's 31 snares, is it? Yeah, 31 I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 31. Yeah. And if you include the missing snare, which I think, as I said, is a Premier 21 brass, which is at my friend's house, I believe. So if you include that one that's missing, that makes 32 snare drums. Anyway, hope you enjoy the video, and I will try and do other videos of like these ones closer up another day. But now I've got to put all this away. Deep joy. Cheers.